Now, my goal when I bring up this sort of thing, when I'm info dumping all this stuff, I'm not trying to get you to memorize this stuff so you can spit it back on a quiz. I want to introduce to you the idea of the value of reading a difficult text. The goal is not to mine this text, The Taming of the Shrew, for nuggets of correct information that you could spit back on a quiz for points. I want you to understand and appreciate and develop the skill of abstract intellectual thought, imagining creative alternatives rather than just spotting and remembering correct answers. I'm not asking you to think of Shakespeare as riddles with one correct answer written in the back of my textbook, and if you can figure out what that is, you'll get full points on a quiz. I want you to practice with Shakespeare's text and other texts written by Shakespeare's contemporaries to consider how any document, we're studying plays, but any document, it could be the interface to a social media app. It could be the text of a constitutional amendment. It could be a law about breastfeeding in public, or a tweet composed by a powerful and angry middle-aged man with millions of followers. It could be a wholly religious text that people have given their lives up defending. Every one of these texts is composed and constructed and edited and translated and preserved or censored or suppressed or transformed and evaluated. Every one of these texts that affects human lives is a document that has to be interpreted in situations where intelligent, well-meaning people can disagree. And that's where college-level critical thinking skills become very, very important. If I'm training you simply to listen to what I tell you you're supposed to think about this play, and reward you for thinking the way I do, then I'm creating followers, I'm not creating people with independent minds, okay? So, I like telling my students, when you're reading Shakespeare and you're trying to make sense of it, if your head isn't hurting at least some of the time, then you're not colleging right, okay? All right, so, with that in mind, I'm opening up the situation to ask you to enter into a play about a very strong female character who breaks a whole lot of cultural taboos, very vocally and openly opposing the will that men try to impose upon her. Now bear in mind, whatever your personal opinions about the role of women in society, and while there's still quite a wide range of beliefs on that topic, I think in the 21st century it's safe to say that the general trend, would you say, has been towards acknowledging women as like autonomous human beings. I think that's a fair way of describing the culture. But however you can relate or can't relate to the struggle that Kate is going through in this play, bear in mind, anytime an author from, way back in the day shows you a strong woman standing up to the patriarchy, that patriarchy in the world of the play has to have a lot of power, or else standing up to that power is meaningless. So the culture that Shakespeare is dramatizing, the lines that he created for Katerina to speak, the points where he expected his audience to empathize with Kate, and the points where he expected his audience to think that she was in the wrong, the various supporting characters who seem to be wronged by Kate and the ones that Kate seems to wrong, all these moral and emotional and ethical reactions were designed to serve the storytelling needs for an audience 400 years ago. And that audience did not include 21st century Me Too feminists. It did not include the not all men bros. It didn't include undergraduate students who are reading Shakespeare for a class assignment. It didn't include Shakespeare purists or Shakespeare transformers who want to make Shakespeare relevant to the 21st century. All of those voices have valuable things to say, but we have to make sure that we are responding to the play that we're actually reading, rather than responding to the play we wish Shakespeare had written, or the play we would have written if we were in Shakespeare's place, or the play we're glad Shakespeare didn't write. Okay, so this is kind of a weird play. And I've deliberately said very little about Catherine, the shrew, whose taming action is the title topic of the play. I've set up a situation where the men in this culture are all interested in marrying, or Baptista is interested in having his daughters marry. It's a financial and a cultural transaction. Nobody has really, so far, asked any particular opinions about what these women want. And this is one of the plays that Shakespeare scholars would call a problem play. If you go further in this play, I think there's some expectations that you might have that will be met, and other expectations that won't be met. Now, it's a comedy. We do expect there to be weddings. There's not going to be people falling on their swords and dying left and right. Shakespeare's audience would have known that. But I still think there's a lot of room for you to be surprised when you read this play. And some surprises might thrill you, and some surprises might not. So I'm very interested in hearing your reactions as you enter into Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew.